This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Jurassic Park Minute. Jurassic Park Minute is the fan podcast that chronicles and overanalyzes the classic 1993 film Jurassic Park minute by minute. I'm Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And today we're here to bring you minute number 35, Jurassic Park. Brady, happy Monday. How are you doing today?
Happy Monday to you. I'm doing terrible because it is Monday.
It is Monday, and that's such
right.
a horrible, tragic disaster for our country. And at this time of mourning, we just, I don't know if I can put up with it too many more Mondays. Hopefully, they'll be illegal soon. We can just skip it and go straight on to Tuesday.
Right?
Does that sound good?
Yes, it works for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, it was a pretty gross weekend here in town where we are. Did you do anything special?
Yeah, we launched Goonies Minute.
We did. Goonies
Yeah.
Minute came out today. Yeah.
That's right.
So if folks want to hear Goonies Minute, well, first of all, tell them what is a Goonies Minute?
Goonies Minute is basically the same thing you're listening to right now. It's one of the new editions of the Movies by Minutes podcast family, which there are just so much more of popping up. Some really great movies being covered in this format. And Goonies is just, I don't know, the latest one. And me and my co-host Chris McMahon, who's also got an, involvement in a couple other projects we have coming up from Pele. We sat down, watched the movie, and said, this is something we just have to do. We have to break this down minute by minute. It's already getting some awesome feedback. It really is.
Why did you guys pick Goonies as the movie to move on to?
Goonies is just, as an adventure film, it's just got new things happening almost second by second, not just minute by minute. But that movie moves in such a way that you can chronicle it in this format, and you're going to constantly be just getting into new stuff, new adventures as these characters progress through the story. It's a movie that has different things going on for different ages in it. And one of the things that we do cover is the danger for the children that is immediately presented in the film would be the Fratellis, or all the booby traps that they have to get through. But the bigger threat, the overall threat, is real estate. And it's the fact that their home, their world as they know it, is being taken out from under them. And this is kind of Mikey, our lead character's way to try and prevent that from finding the rich stuff, as he calls it.
It's tough stuff for a kid to deal with, so you kind of understand why they would want to go on an adventure to try to stop the whole thing.
And if you listen to our pilot episode, we'll get into the fact that, as we grow as movie viewers, this film has always had something new for us to catch. And in this term, it's the threat in the movie, and that is something that's very realistic.
So if folks want to check out Goonies Minute, where's the best place for them to find that?
They can find us online at gooniesminute.com. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/gooniesminute, twitter.com/gooniesminute, and on Instagram at gooniesminute. But it's the newest thing from our company, Pele Media. So if you just follow Pele Media, you're going to get not just Goonies Minute, but Jurassic Park Minute, Ghostbusters Minute, and a few other things we're about to be announcing sometime soon. So
very cool. Very, very, very cool. So Goonies Minute pilot drops today. When does this actual series start?
December 12th.
December 12th.
Monday,
so that'll be next
December
Monday,
12th.
right?
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Really cool stuff coming at you guys, so stay tuned.
Awesome. So check that out, folks. Goonies Minute. I've heard it. It's fantastic. I'm not on it, and I still listen to it as a fan, I guess. It's a pretty great show. But hey, speaking of great movies, you want to get on to Jurassic Park?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. On the previous minute, we saw the group sitting at the dinner table as Alejandro delivered Chilean sea bass. The aspect of how much to charge for the park entry fees was brought up by Gennaro. At minute number 35, Hammond tells Gennaro that he did not develop Jurassic Park to only cater to the super rich. Hammond goes on to say that everyone in the world has the right to enjoy these animals. At 35:07, Gennaro says, sure they will. We'll have a coupon day or something. Hammond laughs at the proposal. At 35:15, Malcolm speaks up to say that the lack of humility before nature that is on display staggers him. Gennaro thanks him for his input and goes on to say that things are a little different than they had originally feared. Malcolm agrees and says that things are far worse. Gennaro stops him and says that they haven't even seen the park yet. At 35:30, Hammond stops Gennaro and tells him that he wants to hear what Malcolm has to say. At 35:37, Malcolm asks Hammond if he sees the danger inherent in what he is doing here. Malcolm tells Hammond that genetics are the most awesome force that the planet has ever seen, but he wields it like a little kid that has found his dad's gun. Gennaro tells Malcolm that it is inappropriate for him to start hurling accusations. Malcolm ignores him and goes on to say that the big problem here is that scientific discoveries didn't require any discipline to obtain them. And thus ends minute number 35 of Jurassic Park. So Malcolm is a pretty brave guy for what he says here. He is kind of giving Hammond a real piece of his mind here. He's not holding anything back. You can tell in the previous few scenes. Now we've made note that Malcolm is walking around looking very perturbed by the science that's going on.
That's right.
That what he sees being done with science here, and this is kind of when it comes to a point. it just is kind of bubbling up underneath him, and he wants John Hammond to know, hey, I got some real issue with what's going on here on the island. So
yeah, and it's good that he's being spurred on to express this by Gennaro, kind of acting like an idiot and saying all this like really ignorant stuff. That's he knows is just going to prolong the real problem here, and it's a great scene. This is actually my favorite sequence in the entire movie. Is this whole VIP lunch scene. And I think it's where it's building the conceit of the entire franchise, and it makes Jurassic World all the more implausible, and that much more difficult for me to believe that these obvious lessons that are being taught here by Malcolm, you'd be an
falling
idiot
on deaf ears.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
well, the whole thing is that Gennaro brought Malcolm here they thought these guys were going to come in, they were going to see the advancements that were being made in science here, and that all the scientists were going to be blown over, right? Like Malcolm was going to come in and say like, oh, look at this, and nothing could go wrong with this, there's no problems here. And then, Ellie and Grant would both be kind of blown away with being able to actually see dinosaurs. And in fact, the opposite is happening here, that they've come in, they're creatures that can think for themselves, they see what's going on, and they have real ethical concerns with, as he says, this is like a kid that has found his dad's gun, and he's wielding it without really understanding the full consequence of what he's doing.
It's funny that the dinosaurs, these things that he created are something he cannot control, and these human beings that he's brought in thinking he can control them are also just running loose, and they're doing everything that he did not anticipate and did not want, and that is to go against everything he's created.
And if anybody's an expert on things going out of control, I think it would be a chaotician who knows, this guy has seen all sorts of examples and models of how little tiny things can set off a chain reaction, which is complete chaos would come out of that, as the name would imply. So he's probably looking down the line and saying, if these things get off the island and they find a way to breed, because he's already said life will find a way, it could spell doom for the human race. Not just that. What if these things got out they were able to swim ashore to Costa Rica? Or, jumped on a boat somehow. Comptomimus got out into Costa Rica and started breeding, started eating crops, started killing livestock, getting out into the general public, spreading disease. Like, there's all sorts of horrible things that could be happening here. He's looking down the line. John Hammond is just seeing it as like his flea circus. I'm just going to entertain people.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun time. Gennaro's looking at it and just saying, like a Donald Duck cartoon, like where Donald gets some,
money.
yeah, just his eyes are like a cash register till going over and over with dollar signs. Yeah,
and I think it's funny that Grant later in the scene, the last person whose opinion he asks for, gives him such a democratic answer, like, I don't know what to say, so I'm going to tell you this is a bad idea, but in the most, basically the kindest way that I can.
Right.
So
yeah. And we'll get on to that later this week. He and Ellie also brings up some very very good points about you've brought these things back to life. And who knows how their bodies, the genetics of the actual creature, are going to be able to handle little things like the amount of pollution that is in the air now, or the changing climate that we have. But
that's right.
Yeah. But go ahead. You had something else to say?
Yeah, I do. We see in the background in the room the different slides that are being projected.
So it's like a presentation of what everything is going to be going on behind them in this scene, right?
Which is interesting. Obviously this is a VIP lounge and they're a restaurant, whatever, and they're going to be bringing investors and things like that into it. So these slides are going to have to be updated because you see that there's a yearly breakdown of projections and everything. One of them behind Gennaro is the comparative projected attendance slide. And then it'll have okay, this is what's going on in the world of sports. And very vague categories. And then the tallest column it just says Jurassic underneath it. So it's basically
projected interest in probably what they're doing.
Right.
If this was today, maybe something like Jurassic World would have something like, well, here's the number of people that are using our hashtag per hour.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So you can put metrics on actual eyes on product.
There's some other interesting slides if you follow them, but one of them is actually, it has a picture of the visitor center under construction. So it was while they were building the set. So someone who
it's pretty cool.
Just loves to get their hands on every little behind-the-scenes photograph, anything like that I could find. This is one I had never seen, so it was pretty cool that they included that in the movie.
I like this one, and I can't remember if it's in the next minute or in this one, but it actually shows, it looks like a Continental airplane taking off from a beach, implying that they will probably have actual shuttle or jet service to the island, which is interesting because earlier we were talking about, well, how are people going to get there? Are they going to fly over in this helicopter? Is it going to be like Jurassic World where there's a giant skiff that brings everybody in? But it looks like at some point in the movie, I don't know if they were just making a joke or not, but they were actually going to try to have planes land on the island, or that was Hammond's ultimate plan.
Yeah, this is implying that Jurassic Park has, or InGen, I guess, has contracts with, real-world clients, partners like Continental. Is there another one that we ever see listed in the movie?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, there are products. There's a scene later on in the movie that happens.
That's what I mean.
In kind of a gift shop area, and you see some stuff that was existing at the time with dinosaurs on it. But I'm sure they just bulk ordered that for the movie. You know, like let's get dinosaur lunchboxes, which is funny considering what he says in the next scene. But no, I think the Continental thing is just kind of a real world advertiser brought in, like they did really well and not so well in Jurassic World, where they had kind of their main strip of their downtown area with the Margaritaville and stuff, and then not so great with 30-minute long shots of cameras zooming around a Mercedes. It's completely pristine and not getting like mud all over it.
Yeah. Well, I have something else. So there's a podcast called the Jurassic Cast podcast. That's pretty cool. And they have a lot of really good interviews with people involved in the film. One of them is Martin Ferrero, who played Gennaro.
Cool.
And he actually says in it that he had much more of an angle in the scene and much more of an argument, and they cut it out. And I can't remember if he says that they shot it or if it was just scripted, but he does talk about it in that interview. You can actually find that on YouTube, and I don't have the link, but if you go do a search for Jurassic Cast podcast, you'll find it.
I think his interjections are perfect here. He's kept to a minimum, but everything he says is very pointed, and he has a point. The thing about, we'll have a coupon day, just this off the cuff kind of real asshole thing for him to say.
Yeah, he does his delivery is really cool too at some points. Like you can tell that the actors in this, their characters are getting frustrated, because especially with Malcolm, there'll be different breaks in what he's saying, and you can tell that it's just, I don't know, that's kind of how we as humans speak whenever we're really frustrated and trying to get a point across.
There's some really good acting by Jeff Goldblum here, and I think Richard Attenborough as well. Hammond is kind of like, no, Donald, I want him to say speak his piece. I want to hear what he has to say. It really comes off as like a guy who maybe is open to hearing some criticism, and then in a minute we find that he really isn't. But he kind of puts on that front face where he's like, yeah, go ahead, tell me what you think of the park. I'll let you say your due.
Yeah. Well, that's all I've got for this minute.
Yeah, that's all I have for it as well. And it's a little bit more to chew on in tomorrow's minute, where Malcolm really kind of gives his full treaty over what he thinks is wrong with the park and the science here and everything. But again, before we go, just so people can check out the pilot for us, tell us real quick where they can find Goonies Minute. What podcasting platforms is it available on? Right
now we're on iTunes and Overcast and Google Play as well. And we're probably going to have some more coming down the road. But
I think we're getting Stitcher this week. Yeah.
That's right. GooniesMinute.com. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute. So, man, just keep up with us, and we're going to be releasing our first minute on December 12th, Monday, December 12th. So come back, and we'll be breaking this thing down just as we do every weekday right now with a new minute.
Very cool. And we're also going to be announcing a Patreon episode coming up for this weekend. We'll have a little bit more on that later this week. And I think we have some guests that will be coming on very soon, correct?
That's right. We're waiting to get a few things in line, set some stuff in stone, but then we'll be announcing who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep an ear to the tracks. Don't actually do that. The train will come and knock your head off, please. But just listen to the podcast. We'll tell you soon about who's going to be our special guest on here. We've been wanting to get some people on for a while, but it looks like the cards are just falling into place now for that to happen. So
that's right.
All right, folks, we ready to get out of here?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, folks, I'm Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And until next time, hold on to your butts.
Jurassic Park Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the podcast, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can contact us at JurassicParkMinute@gmail.com and visit us online at JurassicParkMinute.com, Facebook.com/Jurassic Park Minute, and Twitter.com/Jurassic Minute. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Pele Media and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Pele Media.